you so much, Jasleen. So welcome all. And as Jasleen mentioned, we are moving towards more sustainable cities, whether it's the hardscape or the lighting. And here we have this esteemed panel to discuss how responsible we can be with our lighting. So light definitely defines space, how people feel within it and how people perceive buildings, structures, and materials that make it. It is a powerful feature of our urban landscape and the way we experience it. Light and lighting are ever-present elements of the city, whether it's the flickering bus light or the dim overhead street lighting features which illuminate our cities. Let's understand the role of our light in our cities and how it helps us interact with our urban spaces. So Mansi, could you shed some light on that? We have the projections. So Mansi, could you shed some light on that?
Good morning, everyone. I'm just going through the journey of how light really impacts all of us. As architects and designers, I think we've always associated with light being the main element to give us perspective into anything. So, just to see, we need light. So, when the day begins, the beauty of, the sun-washed sky is something that transcends into whatever we perceive in our lives, and the day begins hence. And also I just taking a very generic view of light, because the other technical aspects will be spoken about with the experts. So I think light is so meditative because we all know that light travels. So it's a journey. It's something you perceive from where the source point is to where it travels. And the fag end of where you see the light is really the journey or the travel in that beautiful transition of darkness into light. So just very stark imagery to tell us that light is also something that brings hope in our lives. We always look upwards. The sky is always something that brings us light. We make skylights, we bring the outdoors inside. So that's something that's so hopeful. We aspire for something higher into the sky. Light brings in beautiful textures, patterns. We try and relate that to architecture in terms of built jalis, facades. We want to bring in the beautiful play of colors. And we look at the shadows and the play of light in our built elements that we try and plan. So just throwing some light into the word light, I'd like to pass the ball on to the next person, please. Thank you.
So, thank you, Mansi. That was very enlightening. Right, so the illumination is important, but so is the color and the intensity used to do this. And I would like some way to throw some light on that.
Yeah. Of course, illumination, light, colors, this is going to be very important. This is just an example, we've just collected a few photographs and I would just like to talk on them. This is one of the projects which we've done, and this is a promenade which is done in Telangana, which is actually a geo-biodiversity park. When we talk about colors and light, firstly, we start looking at light not just in its artificial light or light in the artificial sense, but also natural light. So just to understand the transition and how the entire space is perceived. So during the day, there are early morning. If you see a photograph, you will see early walkers coming and using a promenade. Then as the evening comes, or when it's an afternoon, you might find some visitors visiting a biodiversity park. And then when the sunset is there, it's a different kind of people or group who want to, really experience the sun setting looking towards the pond. And then at night, the perspective of, or how the space changes and what activities, how activities change. That is something I would like to talk about. Other than that, what is also important is color. When we talk about color and light, we need to, I think we can just stick to the first slide. Yeah. When we talk when we talk about color, light falling on different elements is also very important. So we know our Indian culture and heritage is very colorful. We love something which is vivid. We love something which is bright. We love different colors. So one is the play of light and colors is going to be very important during the day. So in an urban context, yes, we want to see that play of light that is through the softscape, through the shrubbery, through the plantation. We love to see that color being brought through. And then when you see the same space at night, what kind of lighting should be used in order to enhance that color or enhance that space. So when you look at the last photograph out here with some kind of you see a post stop there with illumination happening. So what we generally do is that this is actually a heritage site, which also draws a lot of culture and heritage from Kakatiyan architecture of that region, and it's a biodiversity park as well. So we love to go with warm white colors because people associate that to be very comforting and soothing to the eye. So when people come at night, it's very soothing. And then so we go with 3000 Kelvin or we go with 4000 K, some warm whites to highlight that space. And we don't want to really disturb the natural character of that region. So we just go with very simple lighting. Yes, we know that Indians love color, and when it comes to artificial lighting, we love reds, blues, greens, but maybe this is not the place where we would like to do that. We want to highlight that through the plantation. Another important aspect, I'll just try to keep it quick. Another important aspect is the selection of light fixtures when it comes in urban landscape. Here you see a post stop, which is very simple, but there's a post stop and there's a head on top, and there's also a recessed light and slightly below. When we design such spaces, it's very important that we know that people tend to vandalize, and our culture is such that how much ever care we take in making beautiful designs, people tend to spoil it. So what we've done is that we've carved a column which is in granite, which is hand carved, so we don't want any vandalization to happen there. Then you have a post stop, so the light, no one can hit or break that post stop head. And then another aspect which we've done in this is that you could also have light at a lower level, at a floor level. Because this being a biodiversity park, we have an issue of reptiles also creeping in. So when we give a light at a lower level, we try to ensure, that the reptiles are kept at bay. And when you're walking through this, through this promenade, walking track, it becomes really safe. Just to quickly summarize, this is a promenade which is 30 meter wide, wherein the first 15 meters is touching the water edge, which is a Bhadrakali tank, which is a very biodiverse lake. And then this is your walking track, and then you go further ahead where there's a toy train track. We can go to the next slide, please. There was one more in between. Oh, you can go ahead then, that's fine. Can we go ahead? It's not there? You removed it? God. Okay, all right. I can talk on this. See, when we, this is, because this is part of the biodiversity, you can see the first photograph out there. You see the promenade, we see some pergolas with, Kakatiyan architecture and columns. And then there's this entire water edge where we have this elephant grass growing, there are a lot of birds, aquatic life, migratory birds coming here. So when we consider doing lighting, and we also consider about a promenade which has to be well lit, but at the same time, we have to be careful not to, pollute the water and to pollute the surrounding, because we want the migratory birds to be there. We want the aquatic life to be there. What do we do? What we tend to do is, we try, as you see here, the first 15 meters and the next 3 meters, which is the walking track, we've tried to keep the light which is at a higher level away from the water edge. And then the light which is much nearer to the water, it's at a lower level or it's much softer. So what we want to do is that we don't want any spillage or any light spilling into this water and spoiling the aquatic life. So we need to be really sensitive about that when we are designing public spaces. And the last thing actually in this, what I would like to speak is when in landscape or in urban landscape, when it comes to lighting, we tend to, the way we perceive spaces, when we stand nearer, we or during the day, what we tend to see, we see the water, we see the hills, we see birds, we see everything beyond. But at night, when it becomes darker, we start looking at the immediate surroundings. That means something that's really near to us. So that is when, the lighting plays a very important role. So at night, people are going to actually look at that light and highlight. So we have to identify certain elements, certain portals. I think one photo was missed, but which could actually highlight that space.
Thank you. Thank you, Samved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And so that was beautiful. We got to learn a lot about color intensity. Anybody, any questions there? Anybody, any inputs there?
Well, I had one, just a quick one, if time permits, or maybe later on. I'll talk about it.
Sure. Yeah, so that's a lot of color that we see on the screen here.
Yes.
And while we do all this in terms of intensity, color, there's also certain emotions that lighting evokes, and especially during the night. So while a well-lit street has an element of security associated with it, a well-lit monument has a very romantic feel about it. So would you like to add something to that, Raghu?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I think that's the start of the discussion was very interesting, and Samved presented it at her perspective. When the topic says we are responsible, it also means, the lighting and landscape, or we are talking outdoor lighting. That's one most important thing is artificial light source which we use. So artificial light source can also create pollution, light pollution, and we need to ensure that the pollution is under control. So there's a terminology called dark sky glow. That means there should be no upward lighting. So that is one thing we, as Klite, as a manufacturer, we take it. Second part is we are diurnal, or that's where we are. We are mammals, and the most important, we have a circadian rhythm. The same thing is about nocturnal animals, so the living beings. So we have to be very sensitive. So what is the light level which is required to be there? That is the second important aspect, how minimalistic it has to be there. So that's very important. And then we are talking about carbon neutrality. Very important from the point of view, as a manufacturer, we are very conscious about that. So, but from the lighting perspective, we have Mr. Sarvdeep Basur, who can guide us through the entire discussion.
Yeah.
I can keep on sitting because I can see the
Sure.
slide.
So do you want me to
Let's
move
go.
to the next slide?
We could start that later.
Okay.
What you just said is extremely important. I'll start with a fact which most of us don't know about, that in India, we use the most number of lights anywhere in the world. In fact, it's almost more than double now than what we use in China. So China is a larger country with a equal population, but we have more light sources in India, almost double to that of China. So our gluttony for light, we are so hungry for light that जहाँ दिल करता है हम लाइट लगा देते हैं. So actually, I'll share a very good example with you. We're doing a park in very near the Black Forest in Germany, where the theme is darkness, and they needed a lighting designer to create that darkness and still make that space functional at night. So the world is actually going towards a darker night and a brighter day. And what we've been doing, my generation's been doing, we've been actually brightening the night and darkening the day. So that's where we now are at the moment, and the world is now looking at darker skies. Belgium has reduced its light sources and lighting levels by 80% in the last 20 years. So they did not need that much light.
That's amazing.
So we'll see a slide from Shenzhen also a little later. We've been working on the Shenzhen Landscape for the last 10 odd years. Shenzhen is blessed with I think city-wise, the best landscape anywhere in the world, because it has the climate, it's right next to the sea, and it's got a lot of space. It's a very modern city. So what we've been doing in Shenzhen is we've been reducing light every year, and we've brought down the street lighting levels to 1/4, and nobody's noticed. So we
Wow.
used to reduce them every year by about 10% or 8% every year. Now it's 1/4 of what it was about 10 years ago, and nobody's even noticed. People are still as safe as they were. If you see the next slide. So as a consequence of this, these two slides on the right, on your right as well. So this is what the Shenzhen landscape now looks like. So people are now more focused to the landscape besides the streets, because the streets are now darker and the landscape has become brighter, which actually means that it's safer for the pedestrians to walk on. And we have created kind of a light and shadow effect, which is relaxing, and these spots of darkness. Sorry. So these spots of darkness in pools of light actually give a relief to the insects and other lower life which we wanted to survive in Shenzhen. And we've now got, what has happened is the number of butterflies in Shenzhen city have increased by about 50 times in the last 10 years. And then we realized that it was the light which was killing the butterflies and the light bug. The jugnu has also come back to Shenzhen now. We've lost jugnu. A lot of people, I'm sure the youngsters have not even seen jugnu in Bombay. But when we were young, there were lots of butterflies, so many, and jugnu. And now we've realized that it was the light which was killing them, not the human being directly. I mean, human being through the light, and not the air pollution. So it was the light pollution which was killing it. So this is a great example which something which we've done in Shenzhen. If we go to my first slide.
Sure.
I'd like to share how we did this, the first slide. So what we did was, in China, we started going to schools and started talking to young children aged between 8 and 10 about light pollution. And we started taking them to parks and started experimenting with light, light and with these young children. And we started educating them. And then these children became our ambassadors, and they started talking to shopkeepers, to other people responsible for lights. They started going to the government departments, and these little children became our ambassadors. And today we have 5 lakh children all over China involved in this Yes Go movement, as it's called. And we've been reducing lighting levels all over China by a considerable amount.
I think that's a wonderful.
So if we can do it in a foreign country, we could do it in our own country as well.
Yes.
So this was a great event, and it's made a lot of difference in the look at the landscape. The landscapes have become more beautiful because the lighting levels, when they go down, the landscape starts shining more. So that's what's happened. And for this, I was honored at the European Parliament. I was the only Indian to address a full house of the European Parliament, and we talked about what we've done in Shenzhen. So probably this is an experiment we need to do in India. My last slide. So this is a hotel where in south of China, in a place called Sanya. It's the Edition Hotel, where we experimented with very low level of light. And this hotel's been functional for the last 4 years, and nobody's complained. So the lighting levels in the landscape are less than 2 lux. So the average lux is 2, and we have more number of light sources, of course, but the landscape looks stunningly beautiful. So facade, landscape, it has the largest swimming pool in the world. The picture on the right, it's got a 8-acre swimming pool. There are lots of light sources there, but the lighting level is really very low. And parts of the swimming pool have fish there, and people swim with the fish. So
Okay.
it's a fantastic project and a case study for young landscape architects, how you do that. So we have light everywhere, but it's a very low level of light, and I mean, generally everybody is able to survive. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So I would like to invite the audience for any questions or any inputs that they want to contribute to the debate. Yeah?
Mr. Basurji, thank you very much for enlightening with the darkness. Well, I have a question. There are a lot of showrooms, especially the car showrooms. When I walk in, I see that there are a lot of glare, excessive light. So much so that even the entire street can be lit over the glass doors, which is seeping through. So, is it because they want to highlight the product, or they want to show off that, you know, my showroom is the brightest? In fact, I have a client which says, please increase the brightness by 30% or 40%. I want more light to fall on my product.
I would like you to search the BMW showroom in Berlin. We did the lighting for that showroom. It's lit in 100 lux. And most of the showrooms in India, lighting showrooms, are lit up in, I think, 1,000 plus lux. And the light, and actually the cars look brighter there. Actually, we've lost a sense of how much light we really need. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was brought up in the hills near Shimla, and winters में अगर light चली जाती थी, तो we knew that तीन महीने नहीं आएगी. You know, with the snow there, the 3 months it won't come back. And my grandmother used to read storybooks to us in moonlight, and she was 65 plus, and it was really comfortable. So I mean, we've lost our sense of light, and our eyes are actually adjusting to more light now. The sensitivity's gone down, and there's a lot of research available on Google on this aspect as well.
Hello?
Thank you for that very insightful, explanation. I want to understand from your point of view, who's the responsible party? Because when I work with lighting designers, they overlight the space. I keep explaining to them as a landscape architect, don't use so much light, it's too much wattage, give us low wattage. They keep giving us more. Maybe they understand the client better than we do. Is it the client pushing this idea of more light, that the Indian client group wants more light? Is it the Indian culture that wants everything over amplified? Or is it the lighting designer? Where is the sensitivity going to begin? Where do we start the change?
It'll need to be a joint effort, sir. And it's not an Indian thing. It's been happening all over the world. Even in the US, they do the same thing. China used to, they probably still do it in certain areas brighter than what we do. It's Middle East, she's absolutely right, sir. But this has to be a joint effort. We need to educate each other a little more.
But our standards are higher. You know, the standard for lighting a simple road is higher in India, set by the engineers, than it's necessary.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, sir. And actually, if you see the standards, about 20 years back, the road lighting standards were a fourth of what they are now. So probably, I don't know.
Can the standards be changed?
The standards are constantly changing because our gluttony for light is increasing. It's very similar to what nexus between our health and the doctors and the pharmaceutical companies. To a large extent, probably the lighting companies are also involved. The manufacturers are also, to sell more light, they are probably convincing people that, we need more light. But with this experiment in Shenzhen, which bringing the light to 25% of it, what it is, we've realized that it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, so while we have just 2 minutes left,
One last question.
I think this was definitely when lighting manufacturers were mentioned. I think the cue is to give the stage to Klite for 2 minutes.
Okay, that's a very good perspective. You said about pushing more lights. It's one aspect of it. Second thing is you have architects, you have lighting designers, you have landscape consultant, ME consultant, everybody involved. It's a cumulative effort because when you do a design, there is certain parameter which is called the vertical illuminance, horizontal illuminance, or lighting around the. So we get different parameters from the client itself. This is what we want to do. Ideally speaking, there is a standard out there which is there. It's clearly defined, but there are certain standards which are very, very old. Okay, but if you look at the European standard, how it has evolved, and specifically the LEED guideline itself, if you look into the LEED guideline, for landscaping it is 0.5 watt per square feet. You may correct me if I'm wrong. So if you're looking at that perspective, then we have to follow, and we can do that. It's not that we want to push more light. What we are trying to do is we are trying to give energy efficient fixtures out there which consumes less energy but more focus. But at the end of the day, there's a planner out here. Everybody is a planner and they want light here. So we say that, as Basur Sahab rightly said, the moonlight is just about 0.1 lux. 0.1 lux. So at that lux level, and when we are talking about 40 years back, so we were carrying the lantern like this, old times. So that's precisely what we are talking about. So if we could work at that particular point of time with those lanterns, with incandescent or this thing, then why not here? And even the nocturnal elements, they survived out here. We can also survive with minimal light. But coming back to the point, what Basur Sahab, everybody, the panel says, we try our best to make it efficient, more productive, but it is all a teamwork, and we have to convince the client. Okay, the client will go to Germany, they will go to US. Wow, that's beautiful. Light बहुत ज़्यादा लगा है वहाँ पे, मजा आ रहा है. It's nice. I want that. But hello, it's a tropical climate. There's already excess street light out here. Even today we are talking about street lighting. You can have the street lighting to 40 meter and 35 meter with correct optics. But why you see in Mumbai 15 meter, 20 meter? Why? You can go increase the spacing, give the correct optic, you will have that. But unfortunately, the mind in India, the way it is trained, we have to change. And I think it's a cumulative effort. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I just add just one little thing? So I just wanted to add to the discussion here. I think it all comes full circle, and we are talking about sustainability in today's day and age. Coming back to nature is exactly what he was looking at. I think it's about rewiring our own thoughts. Each of us as individuals can go back and look at less lighting and contributing, and learning from those patterns of nature that we were really looking at. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, panelists. I think we've taken enough time.
Just about right. Thank you to the panel. A big round of applause. It's a short, brief, but very meaningful discussion. My one takeaway is that I don't know how many of you belong to the 60s generation, and there's a song, Magic is the Moonlight. Has anybody heard? It's a Cliff Richard song. So now it is Magic is the LED light. So it's Mr. Chickengal and his brand of lighting manufacturers who have to give us back the moonlight. All right. Thank you so much.